Okay, how's everyone doing? Good, good. It's a real honor to be here with you and to have a chance to speak. I'd like to thank Ben and Diana for this honor. As you just heard, I am very lucky to be Diana's son-in-law. For those of you that don't know me, I'm married to her beautiful daughter, Bethany. And I want you to know, Diana, that you are a real inspiration to me, that with your, everything you do, the way you live, the way you take your health seriously, the way you eat, the way you set goals and pursue them with all your heart, for all the things you care about, the coast of Maine, the islands, the nature, the animals. Thank you for being a great inspiration to me, personally. You should know, a few years ago, when I was at the Whale Watch one day, Diana stopped in, and one of my co-workers was there, and I went to introduce her, and I said, have you met my mother-in-law, Bethany's mom? And Irene turned to me and said, you mean Bethany's sister, right? Also, I was a student at College of the Atlantic, and two of my most important mentors are here, Ken Klein and Steve Katona, and I want to thank you for all your inspiration. Steve, you should know that when I was a young boy growing up in Eastport, I was out fishing one day with my dad, and we found a dead minke whale floating offshore, and we helped tow the whale in to the beach. And then I found out that there would be a group coming from a school called College of the Atlantic. There was a whale group there that cared about whales, and they were going to come and try to find out what happened to this whale. I had a lot of questions. I don't think I was able to stay there long enough for you to the group to finally show up, but that was my first connection to Allied Whale and College of the Atlantic, just to know that there was a group out there that did care about the whales. So I know I've had the great joy of sitting in so many of your lectures, dozens of your talks on whales. It's been a tremendous inspiration to me. Thank you for all you did to start Allied Whale and inspire so many of us to care about marine mammals and to make this my career. Okay. I'm going to time myself. Okay, I'd like to talk to you today about the top 10 most amazing things about marine mammals. If David Letterman can do it, so can I. Okay, let me see here. The number one, the narwhal's tusk. If God is real, she must be super cool. She put a tusk on the head of a whale. Well, actually a canine tooth that projects out from the left side of the upper jaw through the lip and forms a spiral helix. The tusk is 5 to 10 feet long and found on all males and 15% of females. Males are occasionally observed using their tusks for jousting, with two tusks crossed over like swords, making loud clacking sounds. The narwhal is the origin of the unicorn. Fred Broomer's excellent book titled The Narwhal Unicorn of the Sea has this to say: the Vikings hunted the narwhal and also obtained tusks in trade with Arctic natives. They sold these tusks as unicorn horns and said as little as possible about the true origin. Middlemen carried the tusks to Europe, to the Middle East, to China and Japan, and at the peak of its prestige and popularity, unicorn horn was worth 10 times its weight in gold, and for large horns, rulers paid what in today's terms would be millions of dollars. The picture on the right is of the royal throne in Copenhagen, made with narwhal tusks in the 1600s. About 1 in 500 males is a rare double tusker. It is thought that the tusk defines a male's social rank and helps females in picking a mate that is mature, healthy, and dominant. A question might be, if one tusk attracts females, then what about two? Do the double-tusked narwhals get all the girls? We don't know. There is also a line of thought that the tusk serves the dual purpose as a sensory organ. The thought goes, there are channels throughout the tusk's external layer that allows seawater to enter. That layer connects to a layer of dentine that also contains small tubes. Those tubules run to the innermost part of the narwhal's tusk, the pulp, which is full of blood vessels and millions of nerve endings. The nerves then run from the base of the narwhal's tusk directly to the brain. Therefore, they could theoretically use the tusk to read ocean salinity and better map their environment. Okay, number 2, the size of a blue whale. Blue whales are the largest animals to ever live. They can be 110 feet in length and weigh as much as 300 to 400,000 pounds. To give you a sense of scale, if we lined up 8 to 11 school buses out front with 50 high school students on each bus, that's about the weight of a blue whale. This picture of a blue whale's tail is one that I took in Baja, Mexico, where I lead trips to see blue whales during February and March with my company called Flukes. The tail of a blue whale can be 24 feet wide, the width of a professional soccer net. Blue whales can eat 8 to 16,000 pounds of krill in a day. That's more than 40 million krill, and they have a tongue so big an African elephant could have room to stand on it. The first time I saw the breath of a blue whale, Baja and the Sea of Cortez may be the best place in the world to see blue whales in calm and clear water. Seeing a blue whale up close is both mind-boggling and completely exhilarating. Personally, when I am close to a blue whale, I feel awe. I feel connected to the profound beauty of life on Earth and to the oceans that could create and nourish such an amazing life, and joy for it all. The first time I saw the breath of a blue whale, I knew it was instantly. No whale has a blow as big as the blue whale, which can be 30 to 40 feet high. Longtime renowned whale scientist Roger Payne had been studying whales for 20 years when he encountered his first blue whale. He said it was so big compared to the other whales that it made me feel like I had never seen a whale before. On my most recent trip to Baja, my guests enjoyed a special sight, a mother and calf pictured in the lower right. A baby blue whale weighs 6,000 pounds at birth, is 20 to 27 feet long, and during the first few months of their life, they can drink 100 gallons of milk a day and grow 200 pounds a day. We also saw the whale known as Nubbin. Nubbin is the oldest known blue whale who was first photographed off of California by sports fishermen in 1970. At that time, he was already mature, which would add 5 to 7 years to his life, suggesting that he was born around 1963 to 1965 and is somewhere around 50 years of age. When blue whales dive, they leave enormous footprints on the surface of the ocean. These are created by the movement of their tail up and down as they dive and fast-moving water being pushed to the surface with each stroke of the tail. After a blue whale dives, you can go into the footprint and see small flecks of skin floating to the surface. Blue whales are so enormous that all the time they are shedding skin as they swim. So after Nubbin dove, we edged the boat over to the footprint, and sure enough, I was able to hold a piece of skin that belonged to the oldest known living blue whale on Earth. What a thrill. Number 3, the flipper of a humpback whale. The humpback whales are whale watchers' favorite. They can be curious and playful. They spy hop, tail slap, lift their flukes when diving, and jump, called breaching. We had a humpback whale jump 57 times on one trip, and researchers in Alaska saw one that jumped over 100 times. And don't forget, it was the humpback whale song that inspired so many in 1970 to fight for the conservation of whales worldwide and protect them. No other whale has flippers as long as the humpback proportionally to their body. The average length is 9 to 13 feet, and the record length 20 feet for each flipper. Their flipper is very similar to your arm. They have many of the same bones and have 4 fingers with extra knuckles that help extend them but make them more rigid and not flexible like our joints. The flipper doesn't have a straight leading edge. It has tubercles or bumps along the edge that give it a scalloped appearance. On average, there are 9 to 11 tubercles, with the first and fourth being the largest. Many theories were proposed for the unique flipper shape. The question was, why is a flipper shaped like this? Why not a straight edge that cuts through the water and is hydrodynamic? Why would something evolve in nature that's not efficient, that would slow them down and would have more drag? 10 years ago, a biomechanic researcher named Frank Fish made a replica of a humpback flipper and tested it in a NASA wind tunnel, and it turns out it was the most efficient wing design with the least drag ever tested in a NASA wind tunnel. Drag was reduced by 32% and lift increased by 8%. The bumps channel the water flow and create a different rate of turbulence, providing more lift under the flipper. In turn, the whale can tilt its flippers at a high angle without stall. Humpback whales utilize the flippers for banking and turning when chasing fish. Prototypes of wind turbine blades, adding the tubercle type edge, have been shown to be up to twice as efficient and more stable, quiet, and durable as conventional blades. Industrial ceiling fans mimicking the whale flipper are 20% more efficient while circulating airflow better. This flipper design is also being used on boat rudders, submarines, water turbines for hydropower, airplanes, helicopters, and surfboard skegs. This process, where you take things from nature and apply them to human use, is called biomimicry, and there's a whole field of science and engineering which has sprung up around this. Number 4, the age of a bowhead whale. Wow. The bowhead whale, also known as the Greenland right whale, can reach a length of 60 feet, have a tail 25 feet wide, and weigh over 200,000 pounds. Like the narwhal, they are pagophilic species, meaning ice-loving, and live in and around the Arctic and the subarctic oceans. They are called the bowhead whale because of the bowed lower jaw, but really it's the upper jaw that is most impressive, as it, along with the skull, forms a battering ram that allows them to break through thick ice. They hold many Guinness World Book of Records. They have the longest baleen of any whale, up to 14 feet long. They have the thickest blubber of any whale, at 17 to 20 inches. And they live longer than any other recorded whale. This is my friend Sasha McFarland. She has been to the Arctic and seen bowhead whales. Sasha worked in Bar Harbor as a whale watch naturalist, but has since gone on to work for the Chukchi Sea Environmental Studies Program. This is a long-term research program funded by the oil industry to quantify and survey everything in the sea with hopes of pushing into the Arctic to drill for oil. Each year, Sasha flies into Wainwright, Alaska, to board a ship and work as a marine mammal observer. Wainwright has a population of 550, mostly Eskimo people, and every house has a team of sled dogs tied up outside, which Sasha tells me are not very friendly. The ocean is free of ice for just 3 months each year, and it's during this time that the Eskimos hunt bowhead whales. Inuit have been hunting bowhead for 4,000 years, and today are allowed to kill between 25 and 40 annually for subsistence. A wildlife biologist named Craig George, who works for the Alaska Wildlife, was tasked with studying bowhead whale Eskimo takes. During the 1980s and 90s, at least 6 whales were taken that were found with jade or ivory harpoon heads as shrapnel in their body. The last time Eskimos had claimed they had used that kind of implement to hunt were in the 1870s, as they had switched to metal harpoons when the Yankee whalers arrived. This made George and others think the bowhead whale must be incredibly old. Now, many baleen whales can be aged through a waxy earplug that takes on annual growth rings like the ring of a tree. However, the bowhead whale cannot. So George turned to Scripps Institute in California, who had the ability to age mammals using an amino acid group found in the lens of the eye. The lens of the eye is made of dozens of layers of protein, much like an onion laid down over a mammal's life. By measuring the ratio of right to left-handed amino acids and knowing the rate they have been laid down, scientists can age mammals with accuracy. Scripps Institute aged 42 bowheads and found that one was 135, one was 159, one was 172, and a whale taken in Wainwright, 211 years of age. Not only are whales ancient mammals, having evolved over 50 million years ago, but it turns out they're likely the oldest living mammals on Earth. Number 5, the diving ability of the southern elephant seal. In 1998, I worked as a guide on an eco-tour ship taking people from South America to Antarctica. The South Pole is twice the size of Australia, has an average ice cover of over 1 mile thick, and has 70% of the world's fresh water. Visiting Antarctica is like going to another planet. It is the coldest, driest, and windiest continent on Earth, and if you go, you will surely stop and land on a sub-Antarctic island and see male southern elephant seals, the largest seals on Earth. They typically reach lengths of 16 feet and weigh over 6,000 pounds. Having a big body means that you need to eat a lot, and elephant seals spend upwards of 80% of their lives diving deep in search of fish and squid. Their blood is rich in hemoglobin and muscles rich in myoglobin, which allow them to store tremendous amounts of oxygen before diving deep. Elephant seals are known to have the highest blood volume of any mammal, and they have a larger proportion of oxygen-carrying red blood cells than any mammal. Their average dives are 1,000 to 2,000 feet, and typically 20 minutes for females and 60 minutes for males. However, the record is 7,835 feet and 2 hours. That is equivalent to 5.5 times the size of the Empire State Building. Elephant seals can hold their breath longer than any non-whale mammal on Earth while they search for the bioluminescent organs of deep-sea squid. Number 6, the sperm whale's head. Sperm whale has got to be in close running for the most remarkable animal on Earth, if not the most remarkable. This is the Moby Dick whale and the largest predator on Earth. They form matriarchal pods where females are in charge. They have a complex language and culture and the largest brain of any animal on Earth. They are found around the world's oceans in deep water. So if you're going to see sperm whales, a good place to start, as I did last year, is Kaikoura, New Zealand. There you go on Maori-owned and operated whale watching tours where the mountains come up to the ocean, are more than a mile high, and the ocean canyon close to shore is over a mile deep. For 25 years, I dreamed of going to Kaikoura, and the experience surpassed the expectation. Sitting atop the sperm whale's skull is positioned a large complex of organs filled with a liquid mixture of fats and waxes called spermaceti. This oil was prized by the whalers, and a large male could produce 500 gallons. The purpose of this organ complex and the oil is to generate powerful and focused clicking sounds, while the sperm whale, which the sperm whale uses for echolocation and communication. They produced a blast of sound through a pair of phonic lips at the front of their head, connected to the blowhole, that travels through the oil case toward the back of the head and reflects off the frontal sac and then back out through the head again. The sperm whale's clicking vocalizations may be as loud as 230 decibels, making it the loudest sound produced by any animal on Earth. This sound is used to stun their prey, which include deep-sea sharks, squid, and even giant squid. Number 7, the 1,000-mile song of the finback whale. The finback and the blue whale produce sounds that are extremely low, given at as low as 1 hertz, but loud at 180 decibels. You have to slow their sound down by 10 times for us to be able to hear it. This sound is ideal for carrying long distances through the ocean. And it turns out when they're out in the open ocean, there are deep sound channels running through the oceans where the cold and warm water mix. And these channels are like a fiber optic cable and help carry the sound much farther. It's thought that when they sing in those places, their sounds can travel thousands of miles through the ocean, more than 1,000 miles. It's now theorized that the sounds of fin whales are used to read the ocean like a map. The idea is that they could send out this sound and it would hit underwater seamounts and islands and the coast and reflect back, and they could know where they are in the ocean using sound. Number 8, the diversity of orca ecotypes. It has been known for some time that there are 3 types of orca: residents that feed on fish, mostly coastal salmon or herring; transients that feed on other marine mammals; and, discovered in 1988, a third group known as offshores that feed on fish, skates, and sharks. The 3 types differ in morphology, ecology, behavior, and genetics. In fact, a recent genetic study suggests that transient orcas separated from all other killer whales approximately 750,000 years ago and represent a separate species, which researchers are now calling Bigg's killer whale. It's the one in the middle on the right. Bob Pittman works for NOAA out of the Southwest Science Center near San Diego, and on many research cruises to Antarctica came to realize that there are at least 3 different diverse subspecies or ecotypes there. There's a type A, large orca that feeds on minke whales. These are listed on the left side of this slide. A type B that hunt mostly for Weddell seals, and a type C that feed on fish, and some subspecies of that, which you also see. 5 different ecotypes on that left side of the slide. Things get more confusing when you add the North Atlantic ecotypes, as the Antarctic type A is more similar to the North Atlantic type 2 than the North Atlantic type 1 is to the North Atlantic type 2. All this gives scientists lots to think about, and they're still considering breaking the orca into a variety of different species, potentially. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of culture in their groups. By tagging Antarctic orca with small limpet tags in the fins, scientists have discovered that the type B orca regularly leave the pack ice for warm waters of Brazil and Uruguay. They swim in a straight line upon arrival, stay for a few days, and then swim straight back. Scientists believe these represent periodic maintenance migrations. All the yellow diatoms and algae that grow and accumulate on their bodies in cold water fall off in the warm, spa-like waters of South America. You can think of this as an orca having its own version of a car wash. One tagged individual made a non-stop round trip of over 5,000 miles in 42 days just to get clean. Okay, number 9, right whale mating in the Gulf of Maine. For a long time, researchers have wondered where right whales mate. They know that about 1/3 of the population go to the coasts of Florida and Georgia each winter to give birth, and that some stay near Cape Cod during the winter, but a lot of them were missing. About 7 years ago, a Navy ship was passing through the Gulf of Maine and came upon a large group of whales in the middle of winter. They reported it to NOAA. NOAA sent a plane up, and sure enough, there were dozens of right whales 70 miles offshore from here, out in Jordan Basin. Now scientists have come to realize that this is likely the unknown mating ground of the right whale, right here in our own backyard. In 2010 and 11, our company was hired by the New England Aquarium to go out and do surveys using our boat in the winter for right whales in Jordan Basin. Dr. Moira Brown was the lead scientist. She's there in the top left corner. And we would leave on those trips in the dark, travel for 2 hours in the dark, arrive at sunrise offshore, spend the entire sunlight hours offshore photographing right whales, and then leave at sunset and return. During those trips, we saw lots of right whales. On one trip, we saw 35. We did not see any right whales mating, but we did see, it turns out, a lot of mature males and females that were viable to mate. It now has become more clear that this area is probably more loose and more not so static. It kind of moves around. It stretches from Jordan Basin to Cassius Ledge, about 50 to 60 miles to the west, and offshore. Right whale mating is quite a thing. It turns out when a female is interested in mating, according to Scott Krause, a COA grad and longtime right whale researcher out of the New England Aquarium, she'll produce a call that attracts males. When she's singing, you'll see male right whales swimming in from all directions as fast as they can swim, about 7 miles an hour. And when they arrive, there might be a large group, and the female does all she can to make sure none of them mate with her. She rolls over and turns and twists and does her best to make sure that it's very difficult. It may be that the males actually help each other try to mate, and the competition, it seems, is on the level of the sperm. The right whales have the largest testes of all. Theirs can weigh a ton, and they actually flush the other male's sperm out in an effort to try to pregnate the female. Now, a researcher working at the New England Aquarium out of McGill University named Timothy Fraser, a geneticist, has discovered some very interesting things. Not only is the competition on the level of the sperm, but small populations are expected to lose genetic diversity through genetic drift and inbreeding. It turns out that a number of mechanisms exist that could minimize the genetic decline. Examples include mate choice for unrelated mates and fertilization patterns biased toward genetically dissimilar gametes. Instead of pre-copulatory mate choice, it seems there are post-copulatory selection for gametes on the genetic level. So actually inside the female, the genes are choosing as well. This is an amazing thing and shows you how incredible nature can be. Therefore, this mechanism represents a natural means through which small populations can mitigate the loss of genetic diversity over time. And the genetic diversity of the right whale is actually slowly increased in calves born throughout this recent study period, as opposed to the slight decline that was expected. Okay, and finally, number 10. Number 10 is friendly gray whales. My friend Michael Fishback, who studies blue whales in Baja, brings people there for a week at a time, and on some days when the weather is rough in the Sea of Cortez, his wife and son will take groups of people across Baja to the protected lagoons to see gray whales. Recently, one recent winter, his son Galen returned from such an outing and said, Dad, you know, a baby gray whale's tongue is like sandpaper. Michael said, what? It turns out gray whales can be friendly. They were known as devilfish, but in truth, they're the ocean angels, and they can be incredibly playful, and a certain percentage of them like to have their heads scratched and will come right up to the boat. So on my last trip, every one of my guests touched a baby gray whale that came up and played all around the boat. And I too got to touch a baby gray whale and a mother gray whale, which was really an incredible thrill. The skin is a lot like a Nerf football. It's very soft and pushy, spongy. Gray whales are a Pacific whale. They're distributed from the Sea of Cortez and Baja all the way north. The eastern population migrates up into Alaska and north into the Bering Sea. And the western population, found in pink, is found along the coast of Asia, stretching down into China and Korea during the winter. And it may be that near Kamchatka they actually overlap. However, in recent years, with the opening of the Northwest Passage in 2007 that became ice-free, some, it seems, have continued to swim north and into the Atlantic Ocean. In 2010, a gray whale was seen up in the upper right corner off of Israel. 20 days later, it was seen off of Spain. Then, more recently, in May of 2013, a different individual, they can tell by the markings on the body, was seen off of Africa. This migration from potentially a southern breeding area into the Atlantic all the way to Israel might be somewhere around 12 to 14,000 miles. The Arctic ice is disappearing. You can see in red the boundary in 1979, and now sometimes in the summer where the ice is completely free and you can bypass and go through the Northwest Channel, which lots of ships are doing now, including just this last year, a giant freighter made its way through. You can see in that bottom graph the amount of sea ice slowly disappearing over time. And now there's a real thought that by 2030 or maybe 2040, that at some point the entire Arctic will be free of ice during the summer. What is that going to mean to the animals that live there? What happens to 75,000 narwhal that live in the Arctic? What happens to the polar bears? What happens to the bowhead whales? Already, orca are attacking belugas and narwhal in places they normally haven't had access to them. And bowhead whales are meeting from the north, meeting in the north from the east population and the west population that have been separate genetically for tens of thousands of years. What is all this change going to mean? And how would you feel if your home disappeared with everything in it? We are not immune. All oceans are warming. In a recent published study, the Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 99% of the world's oceans. We are seeing mid-Atlantic and tropical fish show up here, lobsters shedding their shell 2 to 3 months early, as in 2012, which fishermen their whole life on the coast of Maine had never seen, and a huge drop in plankton productivity. I'm excited by what Schoodic Institute may offer to people, to the average people, in helping them understand climate change and understand how the research is done, and maybe just understand the issue more clearly. Obviously, a lot of people don't. What can you do? Well, all of us can become more educated, can try to understand it, and support the Schoodic Institute. And I'm really excited to see what is possible here. Hopefully, as Seth showed with his talk, with some of the things that they're doing, Schoodic Institute can become a real leader in this kind of effort in helping educate people about these huge changes that are happening in the oceans, in all the oceans in the world. So with that, thank you.